Hi, and welcome to Automate Me, Please. My name is Emma, and I have Kyle and Mike on the call with me as well. We have created this podcast really for you, individuals who are interested in automations and AI, but are very, very new, very, very green. Mike and myself, we know nothing. Kyle is the expert. So as we learn, as we probe, as we ask questions of Kyle, you'll be able to learn with us. Today, Kyle, if I'm right, today you're going to be sharing some helpful tools that Mike and I might not be aware of.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Emma. It's good to see you guys again. It's been a couple of weeks. The thing is that what I'm going to show you today, if you haven't already seen this, I think it's going to blow your mind. When it came out, I was like, I cannot believe this is real. But it's here. So I'm excited to show off some of these things to you guys. And I think it's going to prompt some good conversations in general and also set us up for our next topic. We discussed previously getting into some AI ethics. And so I think some of this is going to really be some good foundational groundwork that we can lay for that future conversation. So I'm super pumped.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I'm super excited for this session as well. In fact, Emma, I'm kind of curious because I've been working on some stuff in the background since our last session. How have you incorporated AI into your business in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I've been playing around with Canva, but in the aspect of the AI tool within Canva, because usually I'm doing it all from scratch. And then I've been looking at Napkin AI for charts to put into different slideshows and presentations. It also gave me a few visuals that I can use on social media when it comes to launching new departments or, having a should you reach out to the TC squad versus not reach out to the TC squad. So I've been playing around with those two different platforms recently.
That's super cool. I think it's really interesting to think about how we can utilize AI as newbies, Emma, right? And that's why we have Kyle here to kind of guide us along. Kyle, I'm super excited. Do you just want to dive right in to show us what the cool tool is?
Yeah, well, there's a couple. One of them has been around for a little bit. Actually, I would say two of them have. And one of them is much newer. So have you guys heard of NotebookLM?
Yes. Okay.
How much have you guys played with NotebookLM?
0.
Okay. Then this is going to be fantastic. So you guys are going to love this. So for our listeners today who are here along with us, NotebookLM is a tool that has been developed by Google. It is essentially a way for you to take a bunch of different resources and then compile them together into this virtual notebook, so to speak. And then you can go in, ask questions with the AI, and do some other cool stuff like generate a AI hosted podcast. So you can actually learn from these resources. So I've tested this a little bit. I've shown some other people some of this stuff. The thing that really is exciting about this tool is that it comes along with your Google Workspace account. And as far as I'm aware, to this day, it's actually free even for just free Gmail users, which is really cool. So that means that anybody who's out there who has a Gmail account, you can go in and start playing with this today and start using it to help build up your own skills, your own knowledge, maybe your own business, whatever it is. And if you are paying for a Google Workspace, then it also comes with that as well. So it's a really, really versatile tool. I know a lot of people probably use ChatGPT or Claude, but I think of this as an extra little helpful add-on. So that's one of the tools that we're going to get into today. We're just going to take a minute to show it and show people how it works. And you guys can ask questions and we can do some live demoing, which I think will be fun. So y'all ready to get into it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let me share my screen and then let's do this. Okay, so the way you can access this on your own computers is by going to notebooklm.google.com. You could also go search this online and you'd be able to find it. So the way you interact with this is you create a new notebook, and then the very first thing that you see when you're directed here is this view where you can pull in a bunch of different sources. And so this is really cool because you can see all these different ways that we could actually pull in sources to reference. So we could upload files of our own. We could come in to our own Google Drive, our Google Slides or whatever, pull those things in. We can pull in resources from websites or even like YouTube videos. We can copy text and paste it here. And then the other really cool thing that I like is that you can actually discover sources. And I think this will be a good place for us to start. So if we click that discover sources, and let's do something like real estate related, because I know y'all are in the real estate industry, and I know probably a lot of our listeners are as well. So let's do something like, I want to learn more about the process of a real estate transaction from start to finish. So we can hit submit, and then it's going to go out and search for a bunch of different sources and then list these sources here for us. And then we can choose which ones we want to include inside of our notebook. So this one looks good. Step-by-step breakdown of real estate transaction, residential, timeline for closing, step-by-step mortgage guide, home inspections, understanding and appraisal. This all looks like really good stuff. I'm going to just say, hey, I want to select all of it, and we're going to import it. And so we start getting our resources in here on the left side. And now we can start doing some very interesting things with this. So we can start asking questions. Like we can say, how does a real estate transaction typically begin? Looks like we also get some suggestions here on the bottom, which is kind of cool. So we'll hit submit on that. And we're going to be able to like start chatting with all of our documentation. So you could see how this is like super powerful, whether you're trying to do research for, maybe a project that you're working on. Maybe you're trying to do market research for your business. Or let's say you have like standard operating procedures in your business and you need some way to be able to ask questions about those standard operating procedures, or you want to maybe train employees on those. You could create these notebooks, put them together with all of the sources from your Google Drive, videos, whatever, and then you could hand these off to your employees and train them using these types of things. You can also do things like create an audio overview. You can create a mind map. So you click that, it'll like generate a new mind map over here. You can add additional notes into your sources if you want. And then the other thing that I think is really awesome about this is that you can create this deep dive conversation. It's like a podcast hosted by two AI. And essentially when you generate this thing, it's going to create this conversation where they go through all the material and they teach it to you. And you can pause it in the middle, and then you can actually literally talk to the AI and ask it questions live, and it'll give you responses based on the content it knows about. So this is really, really cool. It's a nice all-in-one tool, I think, for helping people get up to speed quickly with something, and then be able to really dive deep and learn about it.
If you're sharing this with your, we're talking about like creating an SOP and then training your staff. How do the staff receive access to this if you're wanting them to listen to the deep dive?
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to test that yet. Okay. My assumption is that when you go to share this, that, anything that was generated inside of this notebook is going to stay with it. So this would actually be worth testing individually. But that's how I would assume it would work.
Hey, Kyle, I think that we're seeing all these really cool tools come on the market, right? To me, it feels a little bit like there's NotebookLM over here, there's this one over here, and they're all kind of run by different companies and different infrastructure. in this use case specifically, are there others like NotebookLM that might offer the same kind of functionality?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The challenge is knowing what is out there really, like because there are so many tools. I'm not really aware of a ton of them that do this exact type of thing. The closest that I'm aware of that you might be able to use would be something like ChatGPT. And that's just because they recently added some new features that let you connect your ChatGPT to like a Google Drive that you have access to. The only thing I'm not sure about is, and this is where I think maybe it fails a little bit, whereas NotebookLM would succeed, would be, I'm not sure that if you try to share that little chat with somebody else, that they're going to have access to the same information that you did. Like, I'm not sure if it's going to be able to pull the information from your Google Drive, for example. Mm-hmm. So I think this has a really unique, I guess, use case, especially for people who are using Google Workspace to store their documentation and things like that.
Is there a Microsoft equivalent of NotebookLM for the people who are on the Microsoft platform?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not aware of one. I know they're incorporating a lot of AI. It's been a bit since I've looked at all of their stuff. So, the answer is maybe, but somebody would have to kind of go research. What I would suggest is, with a lot of these types of things, what I would do is I would take something like ChatGPT or Perplexity, and then I would write my question out and have it do a web search, and kind of tell it, this is what I'm looking for. Are there other things like that? And then if you really, really want to find all potential tools out there, you could turn on like a deep research mode. And that's going to be the best way for you to find out what really exists. Because this is like you said, Mike, there's so much stuff out there that it really is almost impossible to keep up with all the tools. So I leverage tools to help me learn about other tools, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's so interesting to be on the consumer side of the AI right now, right? Because all of these different things are popping up, typically not underneath the same umbrella. It's sort of like, all of us typically will use a Go High Level, for example, and there are all these tools inside of Go High Level, whereas AI right now is very much, displaced in this, there, and that sort of thing. I think that most people are going to be using Gmail or Microsoft products for the most part. So if Microsoft hears this, Google hears this, put those inside your platforms, it can be really helpful for everybody. Can you give us another use case for this, Kyle? So it sounds to me like this is really like a knowledge base, right? You put the information in, you can access it, you can ask it questions. It's like an active conversational knowledge base.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing about that really excites me is that it makes discovery and learning so much easier. Like it in the software engineering space, documentation is notoriously difficult. As you start building out your services and all these different pieces of an application, you have to keep up with your docs. But then, even if you write out the documentation, you have to organize it in some way, right? And the only way for you to find things as things grow inside your system is to be really strategic about how you organize things hierarchically, like, in certain folders and things like that. And even then, like, somebody might struggle to find information. And the next best thing you could do, at least traditionally, was to do like a text search if it was even available. And hopefully you're using the right terminology. The challenge is if you don't even know the right terminology, or maybe somebody's using certain phrases a little differently than you are, it would be very hard to find what you're looking for contextually. And so something like this is going to be really powerful to solve those kinds of problems where, you kind of know roughly what you're trying to learn, or maybe you don't know anything and you're just trying to understand from, the ground up how things work. You can leverage this to help bridge that gap for you. It's just one of those things. It becomes really, really difficult in the long term as your company grows to keep up with information. Information management is a really big challenge.
How does this compare to a RAG, Kyle, like a retrieval augmented generator?
Yeah. So you're using the fancy terms here, Mike. Okay. So for folks who are listening, RAG is essentially a technique where you take a bunch of information, put it into some kind of database, and then the way the system works is when somebody is like writing a question in, say, like a chat bot or something like that, the chat bot will take that, then use a certain type of embedding, and that word might confuse a lot of people. It's just like a numerical representation of the text, and then it'll go search the database for anything that's similar, and then it gets the data back. It does some like ranking to figure out what's the most relevant, and then it puts that back into the text along with the original question and gives that back to the chatbot. And then it's able to give you information. So that's like really high level how that thing works. This is probably using some of those types of things under the hood. So in a lot of ways, you probably are using RAG. It's a little hard to say because I'm not exactly sure what the architecture is, but I would suspect it's very, very similar here.
Yeah, this is a really cool feature that people can get for free, which is the best part. That's awesome, Kyle. What's next? What other tools have you come across?
Yeah, so let's move on to our next one, unless you guys have more questions. Emma, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
No, my brain is on fire right now because everybody that I've ever operated for, or the teams that I'm on for TC work, they're all in Google, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to get in here and I just need to mess around and play around to see how I can implement it into what I'm doing now to make things work better.
Awesome. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good use case for you and your clients in the long term for sure. Like you were saying, Mike, these platforms are offering more of these tools kind of built in, and so I think it's good to learn about them and learn how to leverage them the most. So, all right, let's get on to our next tool here that I think you guys are going to really enjoy. Let me swap over. So here's our next tool for the day. And this is one that really excites me because I'm kind of in this space. So this is a tool in a platform called ElevenLabs. And for folks who aren't aware of what ElevenLabs is, it's a company that is really focused on audio-related automation. So they do speech to text, text to speech. I believe they also have like sound effects and things like that. They've got like a studio built in their platform. So there's a lot of things that ElevenLabs can do. And I believe their technology is often used as like a platform underneath a lot of these newer services. Like if you guys have seen some of these AI receptionists, this is something that I'm really big into right now, helping people build out. There are a lot of services that will use ElevenLabs for the voice generation piece. So that's what this platform is. They let you do a lot of other stuff too, like even do voice cloning. And so Mike, this probably is tickling your ears a little bit in the direction of the AI ethics. And so I think this will be one of those foundational pieces as we're going forward and thinking about these things.
Kyle, it is. And sorry to interrupt you on this.
Go for it.
I have a funny use. Okay, so I found ElevenLabs a few weeks ago, and I spent about 30 minutes with my wife cloning her voice, and we were doing it for a different project. But I connected this to another product called HeyGen and uploaded an image of my wife, just an image that was taken by our next door neighbor, professional photographer, kind of family photo thing. And I paired this image with her voice, wrote a script that was very much romantic towards me. I'm keeping this for future reference. It's, I love you so much. You're the best husband ever.
Positive affirmation needed.
Exactly. Yeah. So if she's not around or if she doesn't want to say it that day, I always have her So basically, long story short, it created a video from an image with her voice talking to me. It's the most incredible thing ever. And I know that 6 months from now, we're going to be like, yeah, child's play. But I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I love it. And Mike, what you're talking about, I got a little thing that's very similar. That's kind of like the big surprise at the end. And it's shocking how well it works. So that's just to kind of tease a little bit of what's to come today. But yeah, this stuff, man, it's just getting better and better. So that's a great example. I love that, of how this can practically be used. You could, in theory, do all sorts of useful things with it. Like, you could use it to help you write stories, for your children or something like that in your voice. There could be all sorts of different ways that this tech can be leveraged. So what I want to show you here today is something that you may not have yet seen if you were playing with this a couple weeks ago, because they literally just launched this feature. So they have announced the version 3 of their services, and it's in alpha right now because there's some kinks that have to be worked out. But the thing that makes this really special is now they have the ability for you in their platform to add multiple voices into a script, and then add like emotions or the way that your speech should change for each of these people talking, or these AI talking in the script. So I went ahead and loaded up an example here of a scenario where somebody is the two friends are in the woods, and they're going through, and one is telling a story and one is really scared. And so I selected a couple voices here, and you can see in this page, we've got these tags here, like mysterious and nervous, teasing, lowering voice, and so on and so forth, throughout, to kind of denote the emotions that should be spoken. Because before, it was kind of just doing its best to guess, and it doesn't always come out sounding super great. So now this is sounding a lot better. So I want to play a demo for you guys real quick. I'm going to show you the better demo, because it gives you 2 generations. When you go through here, you say regenerate speech. It'll give you like 2 samples. I didn't like the first one so much. Again, this is an alpha, but I want to show you what's even possible. Sound good?
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it. And you let me know if you can't hear this for some reason, okay?
It was a night just like this one, when the full moon cast shadows that danced between the trees.
Jamie, do you have to start it like that? Can't you tell a funny story instead?
Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Anyway, as I was saying, a group of campers heard footsteps crunching through the leaves, but when they looked, there was nobody there.
Stop! Did you hear that? I swear I just heard something behind us.
Relax, Alex. That's probably just a raccoon. Or maybe it's the ghost I was about to tell you about.
Nope, I'm out. Can we please just roast marshmallows and talk about literally anything else?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Did you create that, Kyle, the script?
I did. Well, kind of. So here's what I did with this. I went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, I want to use this new tool from ElevenLabs where they allow multiple speakers, and they include tags to denote emotions and changes in the tone of speech. And I gave it a sample like scared and excited. And then I said, I want you to help me write some of these stories with about 5 lines per character max. And then I said, okay, well, here's the context of the story. These 2 friends are in the woods, and one is telling a story and one is really scared and keeps interrupting. So it actually generated that based on the setting I provided and everything. And then I just copied it in here one by one. So in theory, you could even probably hook this up to completely automate the whole process in theory.
Now, Kyle, what you just said was really the game changer for me when it came to my AI usage. And it's using like a ChatGPT or a Claude and then also using the either the docs or the use case or the what's the right way to say it, the technical specifications of other platforms to build a script, right? So if I can say, hey, ElevenLabs new product, yes, they're an alpha, but this is their new product, can do this, help me design a script that will give me Y.
Yeah.
And, if you can use those kinds of tools effectively across platforms, I mean, you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you just let your imagination run wild on this, like you could come up with some crazy good use cases. For example, let's say you had a presentation that you wanted to give, but you weren't confident that you were going to be able to, record it properly and not mess up and all this stuff. Or maybe you want somebody that has a particular tone of voice or style of voice or something like that. Maybe you want to make it sound super epic. What you could do is generate the verbiage here, and then pair it with a slide, and you could like just run through the slides and as it speaks, and then record the whole thing, and then you could share that, and it's a very professionally done presentation, and you didn't have to get on camera or record your own voice or anything like that. So there's things like that you could use it for as well.
Emma, how could you use this, do you think?
One of the things that the TC Squad, we talk about all the time is marketing and having time for marketing. And that's one of the reasons why I've been in ChatGPT and in like Napkin AI and a few other areas recently, is just trying to find out what works best. Well, having a 30-second video, or audio recording that you can put up on social media that breaks down a particular question that a TC would get from almost every client, right? Instead of me fumbling over my words or not having that other person on the other line to be able to go back and forth with, I could just write out the script, and ElevenLabs, right? Would generate
Yes.
that audio for me, and I'd be able then to overlay it with a picture from Canva, right? And then have a reel pretty quickly that applies to one topic. I've also was thinking about how this can be played in other areas, and I don't know. It does open up so many opportunities, both for operations, for TC work, but also for I've been trying to acquire residential assisted living businesses, and one of the things that I see is that their marketing sucks. Like they're not doing a lot online. Their websites are old. They're not on social media. Being able to have an elderly person's voice and a caregiver's voice and play out a scenario like that, you can create so many different stories that if you have just the context of that individual. I've heard of the first Marine woman ever is at one of the residential assisted living businesses that I'm trying to acquire. And she doesn't want to tell her story at all. She doesn't like getting in front of people. But if you're there and you're her caregiver, you've heard so much. And so if you can say, hey, can we take your story in some way and tweak it and share just a little bit of it out there, you might get the approval to do that, right? So I can see how this can play out in business, operations, and TC work.
Hey, Kyle, I have a stupid question per the norm. So ElevenLabs, let's say hypothetically I clone my own voice. Could I send a voice memo to somebody instead of an email and, just write the draft, have it read in my voice so that I really have nothing else to do with other than writing the draft?
Absolutely, you could. Yeah, I think you definitely could. And if you wanted to take it a step further, I could see a scenario where, maybe somebody messages you in a system, maybe it's email or, maybe it's a text to your system or whatever. And that system could generate the response for you automatically and generate your voice on top of that and then send back a response. So you could definitely do something like that even to help personalize the message a little bit and, make it feel more familiar if somebody already knows you.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk to anyone ever again. This is going to be great.
An introverted stream, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, AI for introverts.
At some point, we're going to have a robot mic for everything.
Do you have to be logged into on my computer for this, or is there an app for my phone when I'm on the go?
I'm not sure if there is an app. They may have one. I haven't looked yet. But you could definitely access this. Even on your phone, you could access this and probably play with it in a web browser.
It's really interesting how we're building this up, because now I'm thinking about ethics. And the story that I told you, well, I know that we'll get to it in another session, but the story that I told you about my wife, that's probably an unethical way of using it, if I'm being honest. But for me playing with it, it's kind of a fun little thing to do just for a second there. This is kind of where we're getting into territory here where bad use cases could really be in play. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of moves forward and how people do use these tools. Or is it for good? Is it for not good? So I'm curious to kind of see where all that goes.
Yeah, this is going to go super deep, Mike. This is one of those things I'm more recently am kind of digging into, and part of it is actually just because of my church that I'm a part of. They're trying to think through a lot of these things, from a spiritual lens, right? Like ethically, spiritually, like morally, how does all this stuff make sense? How do we make sense of it? How do we use it? How should we teach people about it, right? And so as exciting as it is, I think there's definitely got to be this balance, right? Like, and this is true of any tools that people create. So like, when guns were first created, right? Like, yeah, it's a really powerful tool, great for self-defense. You can use it for wildlife, protecting your home or whatever, but it can also be misused, right? And this is true with any other tool that we create as well. So I think we can get super deep in this. And on that note, I think maybe we should transition here to our last tool for the day. And this will get you even more excited and also maybe a little bit more worried at the same time. So let me switch over to our last tool here and demo this for you guys, and then we can talk a little bit more about that and maybe even set the stage for our next podcast. So what you're seeing here is a new app that has been launched. This is called Mirage. And this tool was designed specifically for like marketing purposes. So what they have done is they have built specialized models to be able to provide these AI avatars that are trained to behave like actors. And so this is going to go a little bit beyond just a typical talking head, as you guys are going to see in just a second. What you can do when you come into this platform is essentially have it generate the audio in a particular type of voice, very similar to ElevenLabs. But then you have this ability to add this additional layer of these AI avatars. And I like how they set this up. They propose this as like an audition. So you can see here on the left-hand side all the different potential actors that I could choose from. And this is after I've chosen the voice, after I put in my script and everything. And so I can come through here and I can say, oh, I want to see what would it look like if this AI avatar said this part of my script. And so then I can go through and I can just test it. So I'm going to show you a couple of tests here. The credits, just for everybody watching, the credits that you get are kind of limited. So you get enough credits to maybe play with 1 or 2 generations. But you also end up using credits for each of these auditions that you play. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Their platform is a little pricey right now, but in the future, it probably would be reduced. Seems like they're really targeting enterprise clients. But this will give you a good idea of where we're headed with a lot of this stuff. So let me go through. I've got a woman's voice for this, and let me click this. All right. And I'm just kind of go through each one so you can see each one.
Every missed call could be your next $30,000 deal, but who's picking up when you can't? Every missed call could be your next $30,000 deal, but who's picking up when you can't? Every missed call could be your next $30,000 deal, but who's picking up when you can't? Every missed call could be your next $30,000 deal, but who's picking up when you can't?
All right. So here's a funny one.
Every missed call could be your next $30,000 deal, but who's picking up when you can't?
And then this one is one of my favorites. So before I click this, so y'all know, I was actually able to generate this AI avatar on the fly. So they give you the option to be able to use pre-built ones, or you could actually generate a new AI avatar by describing the person. And then you can also describe the background separately and change that out. So this last one is one that I actually generated.
Every missed call could be your next $30,000 deal, but who's picking up when you can't?
It's really good,
Yeah.
Kyle. Out of curiosity, what was your prompt to create that? Or an idea of your prompt?
It was something like, it's been a while since I did it. It was something like a woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, and dressed very like casually, professionally, with a nice looking smile, something like that. So it wasn't like a super complex prompt. And I just put that in there. And then I think I may have just left the background as is. And I thought it did a pretty darn good job.
It's really good. Can we create an avatar of ourselves in this yet?
I think you could actually, they have an upload button here. So I believe you could put your own face into this if you really wanted to.
Emma, can you upload a picture of yourself? And let's do this.
He's out of credits. Every time I have tried an AI to upload my picture, they've utterly failed. I'm some random white chick. Like, it cannot get me right.
Generic white girl category.
Yeah, I think that's been traditionally one of the problems with these type of things is they try to generate the video from that initial picture, but it's like it doesn't accurately reflect the person. I suspect this one would be a lot better, and I just haven't had a chance to really test it again because I ran out of credits, unfortunately. But this would be something worth playing with. Maybe Emma, you could give that a shot and see how it comes out. The thing that was really exciting to me about this was I was just thinking about this for my own business. Like, okay, if I want to maybe create a paid ad, or if I want to create various content that didn't always include my face, maybe it includes some fresh faces that tackled certain topics or things like that. Something like this would be really good for use cases like that.
Yeah.
And it is a little limited right now, but I think what we're going to see probably over this next year is going to get really good, and the cost on these types of tools is going to come down.
This reminds me of that guy. I don't know if I'm the only one who sees him. I'm sure I'm not. But on YouTube, there's an advertisement, and it's clearly an avatar or it's a guy, and he's talking about live streaming his trades. Have you guys ever seen this one?
I don't.
But he mispronounces live streaming. He says live streaming, and I laugh at it every single time. But it's so bad. This right here is probably 100 times better than what that person or that company's created. And I think you're right. I think to create a Facebook ad or something like that, how hard would it be to put in, a prompt and talk about Kyle Kurzal's, AI platforms? It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's easy to overlook is when you do something like this for yourself, you have to think through all the different pieces, right? Like, well, first of all, you have to write a script. Second of all, then you have to go record the thing, and that requires take after take after take after take. And then the last thing you have to do is you have to actually go in and edit it. And that's all before you then put it into the platform. right? To disseminate whatever way you're going to send this out. So that's a lot of work. And the fact that you can put this into the system and then it generates in the background, yeah, maybe it takes a little bit of time, but it goes and does all this stuff in the background and then lets you kind of tweak some of the pieces. That's pretty darn powerful. And it ends up coming out looking really professional. So I think for a lot of people, especially who are small business owners or solopreneurs and you're trying to get started, using something like this would be a huge game changer for people. It gives you access to do things that you typically wouldn't have been able to easily do on your own.
Yeah. So you said this one would be pricey. What do you remember kind of where they're at right now and the price for this?
Yeah, they're in like the couple $100 range for I think it was like maybe an hour worth of content essentially. So they're definitely targeting more enterprise clients. It's one of those things. It'll be good to play with at first, and unless you have a strong need for it right away, maybe it's not worth it. But maybe it is. Maybe it's even worth it just to take a fraction of the stuff off your plate that you're typically doing.
Right.
Hey, Kyle, can you do me a favor? For me, I'm thinking about my use case, right? The way that I would do something like this is I would go to ChatGPT and I would type in, I am a real estate investor who works primarily with real estate agents. I have access to this new platform. It is, what's this one called again?
This one's called Mirage.
Mirage AI. And what I would say is I have access to Mirage AI. I want to create the top 10 use cases for my business. Give me the top 10 use cases. Do you think that ChatGPT would give me some idea of how I could use this platform for some of my marketing or for anything else for that matter?
Yeah, I definitely think it could. And one of the ways I would think about leveraging it is maybe utilizing some external sources for reference to ChatGPT. So maybe like flipping on the web search feature, or maybe turning on, or maybe even using the O3 model or the deep research mode in ChatGPT, because then it's going to be able to go do more in-depth research outside of its own built-in knowledge, and then provide you some really good use cases and maybe some things that people are actually saying from the internet. So yeah, I think that would be a really great case. And then have it help you write the script. I believe, if I remember correctly, when I originally wrote the script for this thing, I actually did use ChatGPT, and I was trying to describe what it is that I wanted to accomplish. Like I wanted to really focus on, hey, these types of people might need like an AI receptionist and they're not able to get to their calls. Can you help me write a very short script, like a 60-second script that I could use as a reference? And it did do that, actually. So that was kind of the starting point for playing with some of this. And so I think for your use case, that would be perfect.
Kyle, how do you think that people can stay in touch with new products as they come on the market? How do you find these products?
Yeah, so the way I kind of keep on top of a lot of this stuff is by plugging into other people who are really doing all the research. There's a couple of key folks like Matt Wool on YouTube. One, his name is AI Andy, I believe. And then there's some other ones that are more research focused. There's another one that I recently came across online. I think they're from HubSpot, but they're like focused on marketing related technology and talking about AI and a lot of that stuff. So that's how I typically stay on top of a lot of this stuff, because there is just so much out there. You can't keep up with all of it yourself unless that is like your full-time job. And so I would rather rely on other people and get the condensed version of this stuff. And there might be some stuff I miss, but that's the primary way. And then some of these guys, they have started building out their own like archives, like their own websites. Like I believe Matt Wolf uses, he built out futuretools.io.
Right.
And so if you need to find a tool, you could go to something like that and do a quick search to see what tools might be relevant to certain categories. And that would be another good way. Like when you run into a problem, you just kind of go look for it and take it piece by piece like that.
That's really cool. Futuretools.io. I wrote that one down. Awesome, Kyle. These are 3 incredible tools that we can use. My mind's racing. What about?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm eager to get off and play with these here later today.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think what's probably next for us is how do we utilize these tools for good and not bad,
Yes.
right? Is that what we're going to be discussing next?
Yeah, I think that'll be probably a worthwhile conversation to have. I definitely don't think we'll exhaust it. Like there's probably too much to cover. But I think it'll be a good starting point. And we'll probably hit that and then go and do maybe another tool review at some point, or maybe dig into something that you guys were learning a bit about and you wanted to really explore in more depth or understand in more depth. And then we'll probably come back around to it. Like I have this feeling that we're going to be doing this cycle of constantly returning to, okay, that's cool. Now, how do we use it appropriately? And then back and forth and back and forth.
Right.
I think we're going to be in development of this for a very long time, right? I think that, I think I probably say it every single time, but today is the worst that AI is going to be. It's going to be better in an hour, tomorrow, and next week. And so, we'll see what this looks like in the future, but I can guarantee you, Kyle, we're going to be having this conversation once a quarter.
Yeah.
Probably, at the very least.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, what I've learned today is that I'm going to write a book for my kids so that I don't have to read them books anymore. I can now voice memo people with my voice, so I never have to talk to anyone now. So basically, I'm removing myself from the human race, and I'm just going to let AI take care of everything from now on. So that's what I've learned today. What about you, Emma?
I think I'm going to write a book or have the aunts and grandparents in my kids' life, because we live so far away from them, for them to record something so that my little ones can hear grandma's voice or aunties singing to them or, talking to them. I'm going to give it a test that way. And then if it goes over well, then maybe branch out and use it in other ways.
I love that, Emma. I think maybe after we do the AI ethics conversation next time around, I want to show you guys one more tool that if you guys actually want to write children's books, you could use to help you create the pictures.
And Kyle, you're a published children's book author, right?
Technically, I am. I did it. So it's funny is I did this 2 years ago when the OpenAI, I think it was DALL-E, the image generator first came out. I was like, oh man, I can write a kid's book. I've got these stories that I've written, but I need help with the imagery. And then we went through, created all the images for that, and then I just put it together and self-published.
Wow.
And it was a great learning experience. And it wasn't really super difficult. So I think, if that's something that you guys want to do just for fun, maybe we can dig into, okay, now how do we actually generate images for our books to go along with our writing? And I think the cool thing about that is it could, in theory, also be used for more than just children's books. We could use that for even adult content, something you want to teach other people about, or maybe your own personal stories, something you're trying to share. And it would be nice to have some imagery to go with those types of things. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, then
It does. It does. I mean, one client that I have is talking about wanting to educate potential end buyers about creative real estate and having an educational platform that they go through before they can be a wrapped buyer. Having some sort of visual book available during that training process, then that opens up not only, there's all these different ways you can learn, and visual is a lot of the population falls underneath that visual cues needing to be there. So being able to use AI to build a training manual or book for an end buyer would be great.
And Emma, I think specifically in that use case as well, a lot of wrap buyers, for example, are Hispanic, Spanish speaking.
Yes.
And so it wouldn't be terribly difficult to either put that into a different language, or at least the visuals will help understand the process across languages. So I think that's a great use case.
Good call out, Mike. That's awesome. I love that idea, because these AI models can definitely translate for you really well.
Awesome. I'm excited.
I love that. I'm excited too. I think that, Kyle, I think that I love that you're holding our hand through this, because going through this world alone, it's like walking through a forest and trying not to hit a tree. You're really helping guide us. So I, as always, appreciate your insight very much.
Absolutely. And I love the questions you guys have. Keep bringing them. This is good. I love exploring ideas. I may be more on the integrator side in some ways, but I also have visionary tendencies. So I really like exploring different ways that we can implement these tools. So
awesome.
It was awesome, you guys. I guess we'll wrap it up here for today. Unless you guys have anything else you want to dig into, I think we'll be good to close it out.
I think that's good for today.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. As always, thank you to our listeners. If you have any suggestions, questions, comments, anything like that you'd like to give us as feedback, then we have a form for you to fill out down in the description below. Please definitely go there. Give us some feedback. We really want to take that feedback, use it to iterate, improve how we do things in this podcast, and make this more valuable, not just for us, but for you guys as well. We want to all grow together. So with that, we'll close it out.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Emma.